Hi everyone, my name is John Baumgart, and today I'd like to talk about fasting, and I guess intermittent fasting, which is becoming quite popular. And before I get into it, I will pat myself in the back, so here we go. I had written a blog article about this, which I'll link below, around 2012 or 11, I have to check. I see now it's quite popular. I mean, I get tons of hits on YouTube, so who knows if anyone will watch this video. But I notice now it's very popular. So I mention that because I'm not now new to this. I can't say I've consistently done it, if you can tell, although let's see how future videos go this year. I like the New Year's wave. It works for me. But I've done it a lot in the past. And so I can tell you, my experience, and I thought that would be interesting. I mean, for sure, you're going to find a lot of videos out there that talk about the benefits, and I'm not going to try to compete with those or even make one. You probably already know if you're watching this, you're just curious about what it's like. So I thought this could be the most valuable because it's my own personal experience. Having done this, I don't know how many times. I've done it quite a lot. I used to be in a lot better shape, and the reason that it worked for me was I just thought about it logically. I mean, fasting has been around for a long time. It's part of a lot of religious traditions. So even though it has a wave now, I would say more it's resurfacing because it's been around for a while. I don't know if it was for weight loss, but it was for other purposes. And I have no biological background, but I just thought in my mind, if you don't put anything into your body, I can't imagine that there would be bad things, or it would seem like you're giving your body a little break, and I think the rest of you needs it, so why not all your organs processing food all the time? So for me, it just made sense from a logic standpoint, but not a biological. I don't have this background, so I never thought of it from that standpoint. I know there's a lot of stuff, but like I said, you can find it on other videos. So I'll just jump into it. What is it like? So I'll first say, this will also be some tips as well. So I'll start there and mention that, I think you have to know yourself. And there are certain personality types that are, I'll call it very binary, that, they can go from one extreme to another. That today I'm going to eat junk food and then tomorrow I'm going to fast. That's not really me. I've tried it and it fails for me because it's too much going from one extreme to the other. So as an example, holidays are over. Now it's January. There's no way the day after Christmas I could have done a fast. It would have been impossible. No way. I need to ease myself into it. What does that mean? So the way I got to this stage, and just for the record, I did a fast yesterday for about 30 hours or so. So on Monday, I had my last meal at around 9 p.m. I had nothing to eat the subsequent Tuesday. And today when I'm filming this, it's Wednesday, and I had something at about 8:30. So I had a little trouble sleeping, which I'll get into. So I think mine was around 30 hours. So how did I get to this level? Well, I definitely didn't after Christmas or the day after. And actually, I got sick. So I found that I needed to go to the gym for at least 2 weeks and get into a healthy pattern. At least go back to the gym. At least start some pattern where I'm exercising, where I'm watching a little. And those 2 weeks, I didn't push myself very hard at the gym. I just tried to get there and, kind of do what I needed to. I had some good workouts. And that was 2 weeks. And the third week I said, okay, I want to try now the diet side. And what I found helps, which is one tip I can give you, is before you go do anything like more than, let's say, 24 hours, you should try something easier. So try to skip breakfast, for example. That's the most common one, the 16-hour one. I think is the easiest way to break yourself in. So, eat at a normal time. Maybe try to eat a little bit earlier than you do. So finish your dinner at 7, 6, if you don't get cravings. And then don't eat breakfast and then eat at 12. You've done the 16-hour fast or even more, which for me is easier. I've never been a breakfast person. It's only when I'm extremely hungry. So those are easy. So I did that one time. I also had one night where I didn't eat a lot for dinner to kind of get my body, because like I said, I need to ease into things. I just can't just jump and dive right in and do it. It doesn't work for me. So I need to ease myself in. And after doing those two, I then said I was ready. And then I just said, I'm going to do it. So for me, actually, once I make the commitment, it's pretty easy after that. I mean, I woke up and I just said, I'm not eating today. So what are the effects? How do I feel? Because breakfast isn't a big deal, in the morning it's fine. You can drink caffeine. That's what most of the experts and scientists say won't interrupt it. So I did have coffee. They say it suppresses the appetite. For me, it did, and so I find I use coffee to cheat, meaning I can't just do a water fast, I don't recommend not drinking water. There's no, from my mind, I don't think there's a benefit because you're going to just dehydrate yourself. But I've read a lot saying that you can try, to have mineral water, you can have flavored water. I don't like to even go there because I find that it opens the door to temptation. So for me, I just say, water, black coffee. And by the way, you can't have like creamer or anything. That's going to mess it up. The idea is you can't give anything for your body to break down. It's in any kind of like food form. So just black coffee doesn't really have anything in it. So I had a coffee, and the morning is easy for me. What I've found helps is to not think about food. It sounds easy, but I would notice, which doesn't happen usually, but my mind would trail and I would start thinking about food, and I would try to tell myself, change your thoughts. I also did it in a work week, and I've, found another tip about that, and I agree. You should do it when you're busy. I can't imagine doing this if I was just sitting around in my bed. I would want to eat something. I couldn't just keep watching movies or reading and then say I'm not hungry, because my mind would wander and think about it. So the morning for me is pretty easy. I didn't notice any noticeable changes. Getting into the day was tough. So I had a little bit of coffee in the morning and water. Like I said, that's it. In the daytime, I went to get another coffee. So I had maybe half a cup in the morning. Then I went to get another, let's say, small coffee in the afternoon. And it took forever. And while I was waiting, they had all these pastries. And I was looking at them and I was staring at them and I was mesmerized. I mean, and it only been a 1 day fast, and I was mesmerized. Actually, I think the most interesting is how much you appreciate, having food around, because just 1 day without eating, and when I started to look at the food, I began to fantasize, and I was thinking, oh, I can have that, and I can have this. And normally I don't have, I like to eat and I'm a little bit overweight, but not to that extent. I don't ever fantasize about food. And I would say as the day progressed, the hunger drive was almost as strong as a sexual drive, in the sense that I was ravenous about it at some points. So there, I can't say from even having done this that it's just a walk in the park. I think a lot of people imagine it's scarier than it really is. I don't think it's that tough, but it's not easy either. It's in the middle. If you're going to do like 1 whole day without eating. So I got another coffee, and when I found when I didn't look at food or go near it or smell it, it was easier. When I was around it, it made it worse. And that's another tip for myself when I do it again. I never have had hunger pangs or cravings, really. So I never had and I think because I ease myself in, and this is why I do it. And, once again, I recommend knowing your body, but I didn't have anything where I broke the temptation. Actually, for me, even when I, let's say, broke the fast at breakfast, right? I very carefully thought about it, and I said, okay, it's over. I didn't just run and shove the food into my mouth. So for me, it's easier just to keep it, to keep going, actually. And I even thought, I could probably keep going today, but, it's a little bit too much. I don't want to go crazy. So the rest of my day, as the afternoon progressed, it did get tougher. I felt physically weaker, not as in I can't lift up anything, but definitely didn't have the same energy I'm used to. But it wasn't so bad that I couldn't function. It was just, I noticed I was just a little bit weaker, and my brain, there were certain things that I knew I couldn't do. It was hard for me to write as well. To think over a few things it took me a little more time. I could do it, but I noticed that something was holding me back in the sense that I didn't have the same energy level. Now, I haven't had a good diet in a very long time, so I'm sure this was more of an extreme experience for my body than normally. And for me, the toughest time was probably the afternoon and the evening. What I notice when you're doing these fasts is that you don't realize how much eating takes up in your day. And so the day seems like the longest day. Like, I got home and it was starting to be dark, and I was like, great, because I just want to go to bed and just get it over with, because I don't want to, you're still uncomfortable. And it was only 7 o'clock, and I said, what am I going to do? So I like to play video games, even though I'm an adult, just because it takes my mind off of things, and at least the dopamine that I'm getting from the video games keeps me away from, the food craving. So I played some video games. I was able to do a little work. I mean, there are certain things I couldn't do. I didn't try to do anything physical. Once again, it's your body, and so you may know, but I could never exercise on a day like this, and I even try to be careful how much I exert myself, because in my mind, I'm, 1 day fast is like, 2 or 3 really intense workouts for what you're going to get out of it. So I don't need to push, and so I just try to, conserve the energy. One thing I noticed is my body temperature dropped a lot. That was interesting, actually. I usually am quite warm, and I noticed for the first time in a long time I was cold, and I even had trouble sleeping that next night because I was so cold and I wasn't used to it. So most likely it's because I haven't had a good diet, and so my body temperature was abnormal for me, and I was cold all the time, and I only noticed it and said, oh, it's probably because of this. So for sure, I think it was good for me in this regard. I mean, I've never had anything during the fast negative. I'll tell you one experience that went badly and why I think it happened. So, and then I woke up. I had trouble sleeping, mostly because I was cold. But I think I went a bit extreme this time, because in the other mini fasts I've done, like I talk about in the blog article, is to have a normal day but stop eating after, let's say, 2 or 3, or even 12, and do the fast that way. For me, that's tougher, actually. I always think it's harder when you start eating and then just to stop. It's easier to wake up and just not eat. Those are very tough for me. But I noticed when I did those, I would have very vivid dreams, more so than most. But when I did it this time, perhaps because of the shock to my body, it was very hard for me to sleep. I was restless and I was cold, and I fell asleep, but it wasn't good quality. Not the end of the world, I think, because the benefit far outweighs it. So I also think it's important when you do this to think about how you get back in and to be careful. I think it's better to not even eat like you would normally, but just to test your body out. So what I had first to eat were just some cashew nuts and a little bit of some egg that was fried. My body responded okay. Immediately I had to go to the bathroom. I then had another one again that was more on the liquid side, if you get my drift, which is normal. I imagine that's the case because my body is like, what the heck is going on? After that, I had an apple and the rest of the egg. I didn't want to eat the whole thing because, I don't think it's a good idea just to fill yourself with a huge meal right afterwards. And that was about 3 hours ago, and so I haven't eaten for a couple of hours. I still feel weak today. I don't feel fully back to myself, so I will have a bit of a larger lunch, but then I'll just go back to normal. And that's another tip, that you can't use this as some cheat code or some hack where you can fast one day and then gorge yourself. You're going to throw your body through some crazy roller coaster, and who knows what's going to happen. to it, but I don't recommend that. I think for it to be effective, you have to be very careful not to binge the next day and just replace all the calories that you lost, because it's not easy. The fasting isn't easy, and you're doing it because you think it's going to be good for your health. You'll live longer, you'll feel better, so why would you poison yourself? And I think it's tougher anyway to just go from one extreme to the other. I did have one bad experience, and I think it's because when I chose to do it. So I once went from a cold environment from Poland to a warm environment, Cyprus. And I did a fast the day before, so that was a mistake, because I can't say it was that, but I didn't eat for about a day, and then I did slowly ease myself, but I got very sick. And I think it was a combination of adjusting to the heat and my body coming back from the fast, or I got very sick, and for 1 or 2 days I couldn't hold down food. Now, I don't want that to scare you, because generally I have trouble adapting to a warm environment. So if I'm in a cold environment and then I go to some tropical or warm area, which Cyprus was, the first day I get headaches. Like I said, the theme is to know your body. And so it was very foolish of me to do it then, and I paid a price. I had to end up going to the hospital because I couldn't hold down any liquids. I just kept, getting sick, and so they had to give me liquids and some medicine, and then I was better. I would say be prepared. Be prepared that you may get diarrhea afterwards. What are some other tips I can give you? I mean, I don't think you should have some extreme approach that, I do get headaches when I don't eat, but for some reason I don't want to have the fast. But other times, that if I'm on a normal schedule and I don't eat for 6 or 7 hours. So if you feel horrible, if you can't work, I mean, this is obvious stuff, but it's not worth it. It just means you have to find something that works for you, and maybe try one, that's a little bit easier. This is obvious stuff, but if you're falling over or something, don't do it. And you can still do the 16-hour, which is good. More benefits happen after 24 hours, but I've done a lot less of these. They're hard in the sense that you really have to think about it, and you kind of have to get comfortable with the feeling. I mean, I even have it still. It's like a missing feeling. You feel like you're missing something. I feel alert. I mean, I'm able to do this video, and I actually wanted to do the video right after I had it so I could give you kind of a report. You can see in comparison to other videos, I think, I can still string together a sentence and talk, but I feel a little bit weaker. I feel a bit off. And so I know, okay, now I'm going to eat more to at least get back to that level where I don't feel like I'm hungry. So, but you feel good in a strange way, that you feel like, you're cleansing yourself. I mean, that's all garbage because your body is cleansing all the time, but mentally you feel like, yeah, I did a clean, good thing for myself. The other things I can mention is maybe you want to have a diary to do this, to track. I don't do that. It doesn't really work for me. It's just too many things I have to do anyway to track it, but you might want to see how it goes. I also found that when I do this, I mean, for sure I'll notice a small loss in weight, but I'll regain it after I eat. But generally, I don't see effects for 2 weeks. Like I said, ease yourself into it. So I hope this video was helpful, if you happen to find it. And, if you have a question for me about it, I try to cover everything. You can write me a comment. I mean, I just do this channel for fun. So let me know, and good luck. Bye.